Hi.
Okay.
Hi, Rishi. Hi,
Hi.
everyone. Um, so today we're going to be talking about career in patent law, and Rishi had a bunch of questions. She is currently a freshman at UCI, and I'll let her introduce herself. But we're going to be talking about how to get into patent law and go over some of the common questions that I get asked on how to break into this field.
Okay. Well, hi everyone. My name is Arushi. I'm a freshman at UC Irvine, and I'm studying business economics there. Went into college knowing that I wanted to go into law, but I recently figured out that patent law really interests me. And as I was researching it, I figured out that you need a undergrad degree in some kind of science, hard science. So I've been looking into that, and I wanted to ask you about that actually. What did you go to undergrad for?
Yeah. So I went to undergrad for engineering. I did aerospace engineering. And to be honest, when I went into undergrad, the idea of becoming an attorney wasn't even something on my
Mm-hmm.
mind. Um, I I loved math, physics, the sciences, and I loved all things aviation and aerospace. So I really wanted to go into that. And then I think it was second, like sophomore year or junior year, I joined Model UN, and I loved just writing briefs and then advocating for my positions and things like that. So that's when the thought of maybe going into law school came to mind. And then I wanted to marry both careers, like both the engineering and law. And I started exploring, and patent and intellectual property was one of those careers. But Arushi, you had a question. You were saying, you're interested in patent law, and you're thinking about maybe switching undergrad major so you can have one of those STEM background that STEM background that you need for patent law. So there's a couple of ways of going into patent law. So in as a patent attorney, there's two ways of being a patent attorney. You can be a registered patent attorney with the United States Patents and Trademark Office, and what that allows you to do is write and draft patent applications on behalf of inventors, and doing certain trials in front of the patent trial and appellate board. So for those things, you could either, I mean, you need to be a registered patent attorney for those.
Mm-hmm.
You could actually help inventors register patents with just being a patent agent without being a patent attorney necessarily. And that requires a STEM background, or we'll talk about the different ways of be qualifying for that USPTO exam. But you could also be a patent litigator and litigate patents. And most of the patent litigators that I know don't are not registered patent attorneys. There are some that are registered patent attorneys and started drafting patents and hated it and loved the patent litigation side of things more. I know a lot of brilliant patent litigators. Some of the top patent litigators in the US don't have that hard science background.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another avenue if you truly want to go into patent law, but don't want to go to through that STEM background or one of the qualifications to sit for the patent bar. But really, sitting for that patent exam and getting that USPTO registration allows you to, one, like I said, draft those application on behalf of clients, help them get those patents, and then defend those patents within the PTAB, within the Patents Trial and Appellate Board at the USPTO. If you were to defend those patents, at the Court of Appeal for Federal Circuit or any of other courts, you don't need that USPTO registration number. And then, so we were talking also about that USPTO exam and what are the criteria in order for you to be able to sit for that USPTO exam. There are three ways. So the easiest way is you already have a bachelor's in one of the hard sciences or one of the like they list engineering is one of them, math, physics, a lot of sciences, but the list is pretty long. So that's category A is essentially a list of all of those bachelor's, master's, or a PhD in one of those listed categories. The second one is having enough credits in math, physics, and other hard sciences to enough credits to qualify for. So you could not have per se a bachelor's or other degrees in STEM degrees, but still have enough credit to sit for that exam. The third one, the less common one, but I've seen people do it, is sit for the Fundamental of Engineering
Mhm.
exam, the FE exam, and basically qualify to sit for the patent bar based off of that. It's not an easy exam. It's an exam that a lot of engineers struggle with, but I know that there are, like Kaplan and things like that, there are schools that specifically there are prep courses that specifically help you study and sit for that FE, that Fundamentals of Engineering exam. So there are various ways. But what I would say is, in order for you to even like find out whether you want to go into that litigation versus the prosecution side of things, is pick up a few patents and then read them, and see whether like you would want to be on the talking to inventors and um, trying to capture their idea and being on that forefront of technology, or whether you want to be on the let's advocate and let's make sure that these people have the rights that they say that they have. And so yeah.
So you're more on the patent litigation side, am I correct?
No, I'm more on the prosecution side of
Oh,
things. So mostly helping inventors and startups develop a portfolio and help them get those patents. And part of the reason I do that, and part of the reason I enjoy it the most, is I get to be an engineer and a lawyer at the same time.
mm,
I get to sit there and then understand and analyze their technical side of things, and then help them basically distill it and write it and help them capture that invention and make sure that no one else is in that space.
mhm. So as a college student, how would you recommend I go about finding which, other than reading patents, like which avenue of patent law that I really want to go into and which one that I would enjoy as a career?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. A lot of times, the best way of finding out is by doing. So asking for internships or asking for, trying to get trying to get some hands-on experience is really the best way
Oh,
of figuring out whether that's something that you enjoy. I mean, I saw that in almost everything that I did too. Like even as an engineer, I finished engineer and I had no idea what engineers did. Like in my mind, I was going to be in a lab and do cool things, and but at the end of the day, it wasn't that. It was, sitting in a cubicle, running some analysis on, some parts, etc. So, and it's things that I saw as I was doing internships. I understood what engineers did more, but it wasn't until I had that hands-on experience that I understood that what it would entail to do it day in and day out.
I see. That's really nice to hear. And also, could you just tell me, like, what does a day in the life look like, a typical day in the life look like for a patent lawyer? And does that differ a lot from other fields of law?
I would say yes, absolutely. It's going to differ on like based off of your practice area. So, as a patent prosecutor, and we do also a lot of trademark prosecution, very little litigation, some pre-litigation. So I'm not in court. Unless I choose to go to court for a specific case and for a specific client, that's never going to be, that's not going to be uh, my day-to-day life. So my day-to-day life, for example, today woke up, we had a daily huddle with the team where we set our priorities for the day. I looked into a patent search for a client. They had an invention, but I wanted to check whether anyone else was doing anything similar, just to kind of understand that landscape for that field. And then I had an inventor meeting with someone who is working on a cool new software, and we started drafting their patent application. So we were basically going over what we had drafted and trying to capture different embodiments and different ways for them to actually make that invention. So that was the first half of my day. Second half of my day was basically sitting down, doing some focus work, and then trying to draft some of these.
Your audio is cut out a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay. I was saying my timer on the app came on. But yeah, so I was saying, so, usually most of my days entail meeting up with inventors and clients to review either their portfolio, review their patent searches, review their patents, or basically going over some of the rejections that we got from the patent office with them. Another part of my week is typically going through what we call office actions. So whenever you file a patent, most of the time you're going to get an office action or rejection. Usually the patent examiner will do their search, and then they'll issue one of three types of rejections, whether it's a novelty, so they found someone doing exactly the same thing, or obviousness, which is the most common one. They'll combine two or three different patents to say that it would have been obvious for somebody to do this, and therefore you need to come up with something um, a little bit more, inventive, or show us how unique this patent is. Why wouldn't it have been easy for somebody else to do that?
Mhm.
So coming up with those arguments and doing examiner interviews. So calling the examiner and trying to make them understand your point of view and why you think that the inventor truly had something unique and why they should be granted a patent there.
Mhm.
So that's usually what most patent attorneys will end up doing, how you're spending your time, either working directly with the inventors and the clients to try to understand their inventions and help them come up with ways to protect it in the broadest terms possible, or doing that focused work, that drafting work, or that, trying to solve those puzzles of how to overcome rejections, etc.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. And then everybody is different too, depending on which firms you're working at. The last firm that I worked at before starting my own practice, I didn't have a whole lot of one-on-one with inventors. So it would be like the principal attorneys would meet up with the inventors and then hand me basically their notes, and trying to use that to draft applications. So it really depends on the type of firm that you're working at as well. And that can change a little bit how your day-to-day would look like.
Mhm. So I do know that the USPTO rejects a lot of patent applications, and you were mentioning how you were trying to navigate around that in your day-to-day job. So is that a big part of your job as a lawyer, is to try to find out how to make sure that the patent application actually goes through? Because I do know that it costs a lot of money to file an application.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And that's true for patents. It's also true for trademarks as
Mhm.
well. A lot of our work is essentially like that problem solving or that puzzle solving. So if you really don't enjoy solving problems, this is probably not the best career for anyone, because you're going to be facing rejections. Unless you view those as a game and a fun challenge, it can be exhausting, right? Like, so if you don't like that, and then that's all you're dealing with every day, it's not fun. But yeah, almost, especially for patents, because we don't draft the narrowest patent out there, right? Like, we try to capture something, we're trying to go for something broad for the client. We're trying to get something that we know is going to be, I'm not just, for example, like if I was drafting a patent for a watch, I would do the watch, but I also do like different mechanisms that could be applicable to maybe more than just the watch, etc. So in that sense, I'm trying to go above and beyond
Mhm.
what that invention is. So usually that's when they'll come up with those rejections, and it's a matter of trying to convince them and trying to come up with arguments, and sometimes adding limitations or adding certain amendments to those claims to make sure that that you're not reading on that prior art.
Mm. Do you feel like in this kind of subset of your job, is it more technical or more law focused?
It's both, honestly. When I'm dealing with the clients and I'm dealing with the inventors, it's a
Hmm.
lot of that technical side that comes up. And then when I'm dealing with the patent office, that's the legal side of things that comes. So that's why I really enjoy the career as a whole. Like, if you want something that is more both technical and legal, and then that creative side of things too, it's a great career for that because it kind of marries both.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's good to hear.
Mhm.
And I would also like to ask, as a patent lawyer, do you think you have time to pursue other things outside of your job, or do you think that this career is something that takes up most of your time?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question, Arushi. And then part of the reason actually I went into this because I had a mentor when I was working as an engineer, thinking about going to law school and thinking about becoming a patent attorney, I reached out to our in-house patent attorney, and I asked him for questions, same questions that you're asking me right now. And then he offered me an internship with him to, come on board and help him draft applications, etc. And it was the way he structured his day that made me want to go into patent law. I feel like it offers you a lot of flexibility if, just because you're not going to court, you're not talking to clients all day, every day. You have a lot of freedom and flexibility over how you structure your day. So for him, for example, he had a lot of clients on the East Coast, so he'd wake up early, get on, conference calls with inventors or the patent office. And then at 10 a.m., he would go for his walk or swim, take a little break, come back, work. And then at the end of the day, go pick up his kids from school, spend some time with them, come back, work a little bit, and then at the end of the day, have dinner with his family and wife and kids. And I saw the way he structured his life, and it was just, it's like, I want that, I'm not just chained to a desk all day, every day. The other like fun, positive thing about it, especially for prosecution, not so much litigation, is it's a remote practice, right? So for example, I'm in California, but our courts and the office that I work with is in DC. It's in Virginia. So I can work from anywhere in the world if I can make that happen. Like for example, when we connected, I was on the other side of the world where my family is, and now I'm back in California. So it afforded me the flexibility to be able to continue to work while being in Morocco with the family or wherever really want to be.
Do you think that's because you have your own practice, or do you think that even if you work at a firm, you can still have the same kind of flexibility?
I think you can still depend if you're with a firm that is aligned with your values and the way you view things, then I think you could definitely have some of that flexibility. Maybe that's a question for my team. I'll connect you with them and you can ask them whether they feel like they have the same flexibility. But for the most part, yeah, we try to afford the same flexibility for everyone. Yeah, so we most of our I'm in Southern California. I'm in Orange County.
Yeah.
Shang, our senior patent attorney, is in Sunnyvale. He's in Northern California. Alf, our trademark paralegal, is on the other side of the planet. Monica, our marketing person, is in El Salvador. So it's, yeah, everybody's all over the place. As long as as long as you're doing your work, and as long as everything is encrypted and confidential, then it doesn't really matter.
Okay. Well, my last question for you, if you have any advice, like one piece of advice you'd give to someone in college right now who wants to go into your career, what would that be?
Sorry, say that again.
If you had any one piece of advice for someone in college right now who plans to go into patent law, what would that be?
I think back to one of the questions that you asked me is how would you know? And I think the best way is to, if anything is intriguing or interesting to you, is get your hands dirty. Try to get some hands-on experience. Try to get some work in that firm or that company or whatever that interest is. I think that's really the best way of finding out whether it's the right fit for you or not. And then the second thing is play to your strengths too. It's easier said than
Yeah.
done, but learning about what comes naturally to you, and what you're naturally good at, is a big part of just having more ease in life in general, instead of having to work against the current every single day, working to your strengths and doing something that you actually enjoy. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. I'm looking at Ashraf's comment. Side effective TV shows like Suits, exactly. Yeah. Hi, everyone who joined. Yeah, so we were just talking about careers in patent law and how to break into patent law. And that's it.
Okay.
Thanks, Harishi, for initiating. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good weekend.
You too.